Right, it's time to get this going. So this is the Mandolin live stream, and today I thought we would do some work on the major chord tone scale. So the chord tone scale is a very central part of this improvising style, this improvising method, I should say, that I teach. And let's look at what it does first of all. The whole idea of this is we want to put, the whole idea of the chord tone scales, we want to keep a note of the chord on the beat as we're playing eighth notes. So what that means is our downstroke notes are going to be notes of the chord, and our upstroke notes are going to be the scale notes that are in between the chord. What this will do is it will put the chord on the beat, and when you have the chord on the beat, it sounds like you fit with the rhythm section because the rhythm section is playing the notes of the chord on the beat. So if you play a note at the same time that is part of that chord, it sounds like you fit together. If you play too many notes that are not in the chord on the beat, which is once again the same time the rhythm section is playing, you don't get it. Just after you do a few of those, it can sound like you have nothing to do with the chords that are going on behind you. So this idea of putting the chords on the beat is really important to start getting your improvisation to fit with the backup. Okay, so one thing that you can do is the chord tone scale videos are videos number 6, 11, and 12 in the series. So actually, let me write that down. So right, chord tone scales. So I always abbreviate chord tone scale CTS if you see anything written. So the chord tone scale videos are number 6, which is the major chord tone scales, 11, and which is the dominant. The two dominant chord tone scales are 11 and 12. I haven't gotten to do any minor ones yet. I'll be doing those very soon. That's a little different animal. But anyway, you can see now down in the corner, the chord tone scale videos are number 6, 11, and 12. So I would very much suggest going back through that. So what we're going to look at today is just the major chord tone scale, and that'll all be covered in video number 6. All right, so let's start on a G major chord tone scale. We're going to play these notes. We're going to play the open G, the second fret, which is an A, the fourth fret, which is B, and the ring finger on the fifth fret, which is C. These are all on the G string. So open 1, so open 2, 4, and 5 for fret numbers. And then on the G string, I'm sorry, on the D string, sorry, I'm just naming things all wrong today. On the D string, we have the open D string. We have the fourth fret and the fifth fret. So what we're doing is we're skipping the second fret. So once again, on the G string, open 2, 4, 5, and on the D string, open 4, 5. So play that as I write it down in the comments. So I'll just write the fret markers. So open 2, 4, 5 on G. And on D, open 4, 5. Doesn't let me write more than one line, so there we go. But anyway, open 2, 4, 5 on the G string, and open 4, 5 on D. Now, if we put those together, notice when I play this, you can hear that G chord sound in there. Okay. Now, let's do it in the next octave. That's the first octave. It'll be exactly the same sound in the next octave. So this will be the fifth fret on D, open A, second on A, third on A, fifth on A, and then we're going to skip the open E string, second on E, and third on E. Okay. So, in the comments, I just wrote, in the higher octave, we start on D5, A, open 2, 3, 5, and then E, 2, and 3. Good. So this is for the ascending chord tone scale. So if I play this whole, well, let me play that last higher octave again. Play it with me. 2, 3, go. Once again, notice how you can hear that. So let's put both octaves together now. Okay, play this with me. Ready, go. Good. All right. So now let's do the descending chord tone scale. The G major chord tone scale. And let's do the lower octave first. So on the D string, we're going to go 5, 2, and open. So notice here we're skipping the fourth fret. The reason we have to skip this note is we want the first note and the third note to be notes of the chord. If I don't skip that note, notice the third note is now an E, not a D, and that's not in the G chord. And then if I continue down, here's the notes on the beat. G, E, not a note in the G chord. C, not a note in the G chord. A, not a note in the G chord. So we've got to skip this. This is why it's called a different name. The chord tone scale. How I learned to play this stuff was I transcribed a lot of people, and especially Sam Bush, who was far and away my favorite. At one point, I'd learned over 600 of Sam's mandolin and fiddle solos. And so he was the first person that I saw doing this, but every player I liked did this. They would skip a note between, in the key of G, between D and G. They would skip one of these two notes. When they ascended, they would put in the fourth fret most of the time, the F sharp note. And when they descended, they would put in the E note, the second fret on the D string, probably about 95% of the time. Okay. So on the D string, 5, 2, open. And then on the G string, we're going to have 5, 4, 2, and open. Okay, so I'm putting those two together. The D string, D like dog, 5, 2, open. And then on the G string, 5, 4, 2, open. Hi, Michael. Thanks for the nice comment. So have fun on your gig. All right. So now let's play this going down. Okay. Ready, go. All right. So let's do the higher octave now. So on the E string, we're going to play the third fret and then the open E string. So, oops, writing, to check my writing. On the A string, it'll be the fifth fret, the third fret, the second fret, and open A. And then on the D string, it'll be the fifth fret on A. And once again, that's the descending G major chord tone scale. So let's try that. On the E string, 3 and then open. On the A string, 5, 3, 2, open. And then on the D string, 5. So let's put that together. Ready, go. Ready, go. Okay. So eventually it really helps. If you can't do this right now, that's okay. But eventually it really helps to practice this by just ascending the scale and then picking any note to turn around on and come back down. One of the cool things that happens when you play this scale like this is if you keep in your mind the notes of the scale going up and then the notes of the scale going down, because remember, there's that one difference of the note that has to be skipped. Okay. And then in the upper register, so let's play the lower octave one, the lower octave starting on open G. So remember on the G string, this is open 2, 4, 5, and then on D, open 4, 5. Now the descending one, remember on D, it's open 2, 5, or I mean it's 5, 2 open. And then just the same notes on the G string, 5, 4, 2 open. So now what I want us to do is I want us to play up to, start on the open G, play up to the 5th fret, and then immediately turn around and come back down. So like this. Okay. Let's play that together. Ready, go. Let's do that again. Ready, go. Okay. So we could pick any note to turn around on. This time, let's do a very short one. Let's play open 2, 4 on the G string and then turn around and come back to open. Ready, go. Do it again. Ready, go. Notice when I play a G chord, da, 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 that fits very nicely with that, doesn't it? So this could be a phrase you use in improvising. Any of these things you're playing, you can use in your improvising. Okay. Let's say for the heck of it now that I'm going to go up to the D string, the open D string. So I'll play open 2, 4, 5 on G, open D, and then turn around and come right back down those same notes. Ready, go. You hear the G again, don't you? Let's do that again. Ready, go. Okay, right. Let's say for the heck of it that we want to play up to the 5th fret on the G string and turn around. So open 2, 4, 5, 4, 2, open. Let's do that. Ready, go. One more time. Ready, go. Okay. One of the exercises I give to my students is have them play up the chord tone scale, starting on open G in this key, but you can do this in any key. You have to start on a note of the chord on this chord tone scale on the beat, otherwise it doesn't work. So if you're playing in like the key of B flat, you'd have to start on the B flat note. If you're playing in the key of C, you don't have to start on the C note. You can start on G because G is a note of the chord, but then you'd have to skip the note right away. Okay, if you're not following what I mean right there, don't worry about it. As soon as you start to put this scale into other keys, you'll see exactly what I mean. Right. So let's play from open G to the B note, the 4th fret on the A string, and then back down. Ready, go. Okay, again. Now let's play up to D, the open D string, and back down, like we did a couple of minutes ago. Let's do that again. Ready, go. Okay. Just as an aside, if I was playing this and I wasn't going to go any higher than D, I would play that with the pinky finger on the 7th fret of the G string. If you play open D, you hear that open D keeps ringing. And if I don't want that to keep ringing, that's when I'll play it with the pinky, because as soon as you lift off the pinky, you go back to the 5th fret, that sound is gone. Okay? All right. So now let's play from open G up to the G note, the 5th fret on the D string, and then turn around and come back down. Ready, go. has a tricky part, doesn't it? Because as we're ascending on the D string, we're playing open 4/5, and then as soon as we descend, it's 2/5, 2 open. Sorry, so open 4/5, 2 open. Okay, so that's a little tricky. This is the part you have to remember. Okay, let's try that all the way from open G up to the G note on the D string, the 5th fret, one more time. Ready, go. All right, so if we put together the last few things that we've done, I played open G up to B, the 4th fret of the G string. I played open G up to D, the open D string, and back down. Then I played open G up to the G note, the 5th fret on the D string, and back down. So let's put this all together. So in other words, when I get back to the open G after coming down, I'm just going to turn right around and go the other way. So let's try this. Ready, go. Up, down, up, down. Okay, I'm just really kind of putting together everything we've done up to this point. Like I said, if you can't follow this, that's okay. You know, when the live stream is done, it takes 2 or 3 hours, but it'll appear on YouTube again on my channel, and you can just go watch it again. And I'll also post it on Patreon. Okay, ready, go. Okay, so this is a really great exercise to do, just randomly running up and down the scale and turning around on any note. Okay, when you turn around on any note like this, it really helps you to get the scale much more in your ear and in your hands. Okay, let's do this again, what we just did. Ready, go. Back, back, reverse, reverse, reverse. Good. Okay. Now we can keep going up to B, which is the 2nd fret on the A string, which is the next note on the chord. Then to D, the 5th fret on the A string, which is the next higher note of the G chord. Then to G, which is 3rd fret on E. And then actually we can go all the way up to the 7th fret on E. So I'm going to do that right now. I know we haven't gone through that, but just try hanging in there with me. So you really want to hear this sound of da, 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 da. And da, 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 da. It's my suggestion that before you ever play anything that you're working on, and especially it's a very short segment, which are the best things to work on, you have to start with short segments and then you build them into longer segments, that you do this, but you sing it before you play it and make sure you know the sound. If you don't know a sound, you can't play it. You're just guessing with where the fingers go. But if you know where the sound is, now you start directing your fingers where to go. Okay, so I'm going to do this pretty slow, but I'm going to go through all of the notes that I just went through, going up to them, back down, going up to the next one, back down, and etc. Ready, go. Up to D, turn around, G, turn around, up to G. This time up to B. This time up to D. to B. Okay, so that's definitely an exercise I have my students do. And we can also go the other way. So this time I'm going to start on B, come down to G, turn around, come down to D, turn around. So this is a little trickier, especially in the upper octave. Remember when we go down, going down, we skip the second fret and go right to open E. But when we go up, we skip the open E and go right to the F sharp, the second fret on the E string. Okay, so let's try the turnaround on chord tone. So every time we hit the new chord tone, we're turning around and going the other way. Okay, ready, go. Okay, how'd you do with that? Probably a little confusing, right? Okay. Actually, I think one of the latest videos I did, let me just check real quick. I think one of the latest videos I did is just what I'm doing right now. Let me just look at my videos on YouTube. And yes, it's video number 47 called How to Practice the Chord Tone Scale. So let me put that down here. Video number 47, How to Practice the Chord Tone Scale, is exactly what we just did. Okay. So what I want you to get out of today is the chord tone scale is an essential sound for improvising to stay with the chord. Now, when the chord changes, the scale changes. So if you're in the key of G and playing along on a G chord and then a C chord comes along, now you have to know all this stuff for the C major chord tone scale. Okay. So that's, I mean, this is part of the homework you do, but any good player, while they may not have done it this particular way I'm describing, they figured out how to do it, how to make this sound on their own some way or other. Because everybody that is a good improviser uses this. When I first discovered this and played a scale, I went looking through all the music theory. I've always studied a lot of music theory, so I went looking through all the music theory things I could find, books of which I had several, college level music theory books. Went through stuff, and I could not find a name for this particular thing. Even though I would see every player I liked do it, I'd never found a name for it. So I made up the name chord tone scale. So really, chord tone scale is not a commonly used term for this. Really, the only people that use it are people who've studied with me. But so I needed some term to put to it so that we could then discuss it, and then in the lessons where I would say, okay, you need to play the chord tone scale here, so play me the G major chord tone scale, so they get used to hearing this sound. Really, the terms don't matter as long as you can hear the sound and get used to playing it. Okay. All right. So that's the end of the mandolin improvisation series, or improv from scratch. For you all out there, on my Patreon channel, I've put and will continue to put a couple a week. I'm sure shooting for a couple a week of very short videos on how to take some of the ideas that I've taught in this series and use and turn them into lines. So that's available for my silver level members, which is $5 a month or higher. Okay, so sorry for the commercial announcement there, but I don't think it's asking too much. All right, so let's get to the Barry Harris stuff now. So the Barry Harris stuff, of course, is for jazz players, and for those that haven't heard of Barry, he was a great piano player, and he really liked the sound of the bebop stuff, so that's what he started studying and teaching himself, like everybody did in that time. Barry, I think, was born in 1930, if I'm not mistaken, and he just died kind of like right at the end of the pandemic. So he was in his 90s, but he developed this system that's the best way of teaching improvising of any music style I've seen. So I really became enamored with it. And during the pandemic, well, he taught, but before the pandemic, he taught weekly classes in New York City. And those classes were just legendary, and some incredibly good players studied with him and went to those classes. A lot of great players up until he died still continued to. Unfortunately, I never got to go to any of the live ones, but during the pandemic for almost 2 years, he did online workshops. So he would do an hour, almost 2 hours in the morning of working on chords with the chording instruments, like piano and guitar. I think I was the only non-pianist and guitarist there. And then in the afternoons, he would work on single note improvising kind of things. And that's what we'll do here. So Barry's big idol was Bud Powell, who was a 40s pianist, real virtuoso player. If you listen to Bud Powell play, all Bud Powell sounded like to my ears was just Charlie Parker put on the piano. And really, if you break Barry's teaching, the things that he teaches down, to me, it just describes exactly how Charlie Parker played and all the ideas. And I can see exactly why Barry, I bet, organized all this stuff in his mind as he was learning from these recordings of Bud Powell and Charlie Parker to help him to then be able to play the language fluidly. And he can play the language incredibly fluidly. So to me, all of this stuff that Barry teaches goes back to Charlie Parker. So what we're looking at here is a very essential part of Barry's teaching, but it's something that Parker played all the time. And it's the idea of what Barry calls extra half steps. So one of the things that's real different in bebop versus earlier periods of jazz, and really a number of other improvising styles that were, 1940s and before, because the early to mid 40s was where bebop really developed, is their use of chromaticism or chromatic scale passages. So a chromatic means just instead of notes of a major scale, they'll add some notes to this. Like that. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to study the half steps that you'll add on a G7 chord. So if you're in the key of C, G7 revolves to either C major 7 or C6. We'll just call this C major. Okay. When jazz players hear the term C major, they know it's either going to be a major 7 or a 6 chord. So C major 7 or C6 in this case. And those are the two sounds that jazz players associate with major chord type sounds. So let's look at what we need to get a G7 scale. So that's what we're looking at. So really the 7th scale, or the dominant 7th scale, or it's just called the dominant scale, in jazz, there's a lot of different 7th chords. In any kind of folk music, there's really only one kind of 7th chord that gets used much, and that's what jazz players would call the dominant 7th. But that is a note with the flatted 7th of the scale. So if I just started on G and went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if my normal 7 would be an F sharp, the 4th fret of the G string, but the flatted 7 would be an F natural. So that flatted 7 is in this G dominant 7th chord, and that's what resolves to C. All right, so let's look at this going down. Well, let's look at it going up first. So on the G string, open 2, 4, 5. On the D string, open 2, 3, 5. So I'll write down G7 scale, G, O, 2, 4, 5, open 2, 4, 5 on the G string, and D, open 2, 3, 5. And so I just wrote those in the comments. So open 2, 4, 5 on G, and open 2, 3, 5 on D. So let's play that together. Ready, go. One more time. Ready, go. Now, one of the things you'll notice if you listen to much bebop, and especially to much Charlie Parker, a very high percentage of his scales go down rather than up. I'm not saying he never plays going up. He does going up the scale, but much more often he plays going down the scale. So it really helps to know the sound of this dominant scale going down. Okay. So now let's go into the higher octave and do the same thing. So a higher octave G7 scale. So on D, we're going to start on the 5th fret. On the A string, we're going to play open, 2, 3, 5. And on the E string, open, 1, 3. That 1st fret on the E string is the flatted 7. So in other words, sorry, thinking chord tone scale there. Forget it, that was the previous half hour. All right, let's do that again. Ready, go. Okay, now let's play that coming down. Ready, go. One more time. Ready, go. Good. All right. So one of the first things Barry saw when he was hearing Parker and Bud Powell was when they would start on the root, the G note, the 1 note, and descend, these players were playing an extra half step between the root and the flat 7 note. So in other words, they were playing the G, the F sharp, which is the 2nd fret of the E string, and then the F note, and then continuing down the scale. So what this does is it puts the 4 notes of the G7 chord, the G, B, D, and F, puts it on the beat. And once again, it fits with the rhythm section because the rhythm section plays on the beat. So let me do that again. Ready, go. G, F, D, B, G. And when I play the G7 chord, voila, sounds like the G7 chord, doesn't it? Okay, so this is one of the first things we do. All right, so let's do this again. Ready, go. So I'm playing with a little bit of swing in my right hand. Da, 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 da. Yeah, okay. Ready, go. Okay, good. So let's make a line out of this. A very common line that I've heard Parker play a bunch is, remember so another very common Barry thing, we are not looking at this real close today, but I'll just say what it is what he calls a chord. And a chord is every other note of the scale. So if I started on the A note, and play every other note of the G7 scale going up, I get A, we skip the B and play C, we skip the D and play E, we skip the F and play G. So this would be, okay? All right. So we can also lead into that with a half step of G sharp, and then turn this into a triplet. So how I do this is I'll play up, because it's the offbeat, on the 6th fret of the D string. Then I'll play open A and hammer to the 3rd fret, then play up on open E, stroke on the 3rd of E, and this is where the 8th notes come back in. And then just play that previous descending scale. And especially if I go 1 note farther after the last G note and play the E, the 2nd fret, it was very common in the bebop era that you'd play an 8th note run and end on the offbeat. Very jazz, very bebop sounding line, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Yeah, if I wanted to, I could play something to get me back to C. Something like that. Okay. All right. So let's try this. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay. Also, for extra half-step rules, there are for Barry's extra half-step rules, videos number 5 in the Barry Harris for Jazz Mandolin series, which talks about dominant half steps. Number 9, which talks about major half steps, either that or those two are reversed. And then number 16, which talks about minor scale half steps. So I just posted those. So these are good places to go back and looking for them. The best place to find my videos is my website, petemartin.info, and then the videos page. And then just scroll down to whichever video you want. The Barry Harris for Jazz Mandolin is down the page bit, but the Mandolin Improv series, or what I first was calling Improv from Scratch, is up toward the top of the page. So just scroll down and see them. But all the videos are on those pages, plus the PDF files that go with the videos are there. So anyway, all of this stuff is covered in videos number 5, 9, and 16 about the extra half steps. Okay. So once again, this rule that we're talking about now that we just played the example from is if you start your descending eighth note scale on the root, the 3, the 5, or the flat 7, which are the 4 notes of the dominant chord, you can play one extra half step between 1 and flat 7. So that was this. We started on 1, and so I put the extra half step right there, which is the one, that's the normal 7, that's the one in between root and flat 7. Okay. So it doesn't matter which chord tone you start on. I could start on the 5 and then descend. 5, 3, root, extra half step, flat 7. See, and that still has that G7 sound, doesn't it? Okay. But, so now, what if you start on one of the notes that is not one of the notes of the chord, 1, 3, 5, flat 7? If so, Barry noticed that Parker and Bud Powell, when they descended starting on 2, one other thing. Notice when we played this phrase, G was where we started the downward scale. So that means that's G is the root, that's 1. So that means I use the rule of one extra half step between 1 and flat 7. So it's always where the scale starts, and it's always if the scale starts on the beat. So 2, 3, 4, 1. That's on a beat, and it's on a note of the chord. So that means I followed that extra half step rule. Okay. So let's look at what happens when we do one of the other 3 notes of the scale, 2, 4, and 6. So whenever you're starting on 2, 4, or 6, there's 2 extra half steps. Okay. Two extra half steps And this would be between 2 and 1. So 2 would be A in this key. 1, G, and flat 7 is F. So one extra half step between 2 and 1, and then an extra half step between 1 and flat 7. So if I started on A and descended, that would mean let's do that again. Play this with me. Ready, go. Okay, has a pretty jazzy sound already. Da, 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 da. Lots of color. It sounds great. All right. So now let's look at a very common Parker phrase that has the same idea. The 4-note chord leading up to that. So if I start on B and play every other note of the G7 scale, I get B, the 2nd fret on the A string, the 5th fret, which is a D, the 1st fret on E, the F note, and then A, the 5th fret on the E string. Okay? So let's try this. So what we're going to do is we're going to once again turn that into a triplet. 1, 1, ready, go. Okay. And just like we did before, one of Parker's favorite things to do when he turns this ascending chord into a triplet is add an extra half step right below the first note of the triplet. An extremely common Charlie Parker phrase. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's the line for right now. So let's go through it. B flat into B, so the 1st fret on A into the 2nd fret on A, and I'm going to use the index finger for both. I'm going to start on an upstroke, then I'm going to play a downstroke on the 2nd fret. I'm going to hammer to the 5th fret, then upstroke on the 1st fret of E, downstroke, and then keep alternating, starting on the 5th fret of E. And jumping from B to G at the end, ending on the offbeat on the upstroke. Once again, a very common bebop rhythmic device. So let's try that all the way through. 1, 2, 3. One more time, go. Two, three. Two, three. Two, three. Actually, that's what I should have played. That's what I wanted. Why I'm not remembering it, I don't know. Finally. All right. So anyway, this is the main thing I wanted to get across to you is very, very common Charlie Parker line. I've transcribed quite a number of Charlie Parker solos, and I see this kind of thing at least a couple of times in every single one, if not even more. I mean, it's just such a classic, what musicians call a cliche phrase in the music. So let's try that again, real slow. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Or actually, let's do. Okay. F, D, D sharp, E, C. That's where the C major chord comes back in. Let's try this from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. God darn it. That's what I meant to play. I wonder why I keep. Yeah. This is what happens when you get old. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Sorry. 2, 3. 2, 3. And if you notice what we did on thinking in C major, I started on the 2, added an extra half step between 2 and 3, went up to 3, and that's one of the things that the major half steps do as well. Okay, is they add an extra chord tone between 2 and 3. All right. Now I didn't get to all the extra half step rules today for the dominant chord. You need to look at it's either video number 5 or video number 9. It'll say on the video, it'll say dominant half step rule, so you'll know which one it is. Dominant, remember, to a jazz player means a dominant 7 chord, and to a folk music player, that's just a 7th chord. Okay? Because in jazz, we have a major 7, we have a minor 7, we have a dominant 7. We have to distinguish between those 3 sounds because they're all very different, and they all do very different, they all accomplish very different musical purposes. So I like to just use the word dominant 7 all the time, just so that people don't get confused of which 7th I'm referring to. Right. I just have a couple of minutes left. Sorry, I meant to start out with some answering any questions. So if anybody has any questions on the Barry Harris stuff, definitely let me know right now, and I'll see if I can answer them. Hopefully you like these live streams enough to where I'll keep doing them. I think I will, for the most part. Because even if just a couple of people get some stuff out of it, that's really what I'm looking for. So once again, remember that I do, I've got the YouTube videos on my YouTube channel, which is Pete Martin Mandolin. You can find my website, which I think is the best place to do it. It's at petemartin.info/videos. I also have on my website, I have a bunch of free recordings. I just recently released a Western swing recording where I played 5-string electric mandolin. And I really love playing Western swing as well as the bebop stuff. But all my recordings are free downloads, free MP3 downloads, so you can get them there. It's just at the recordings link on my website. I think the website is the best place to watch the videos because you have the video and the PDF file available for download right there. But you can find them on my YouTube channel, Pete Martin Mandolin. Also, my Patreon channel, which is Patreon, Paetreon, here. / Pete Martin. I've got, oops, not a question mark, that's a slash. I am not a good typist. There it is. On my Patreon channel, I have put several short videos on the Barry Harris method that each one of them talks about a certain thing in Barry's teachings and how to incorporate it into lines, into jazz lines. So I've got a lot of those, and those are available for my silver level Patreon followers, which is $5 a month. Okay. So anyway, thanks a lot, and hope you all got something out of this, and I'll see you next month.